Hello. Perfect. All I need now is 2 good knees.
Do you need another new knee, Tim?
I need another new knee, so...
We've not started the Q&A yet, though, so if you can wait, please. I'm assuming you all know who Tim is, but we're not going to, make that assumption. We're going to try and be as... There's lots of Smile T-shirts in tonight, which is fantastic to see. I love it. So basically, Tim, as you know, he was kind of at the genesis of history and played, I would argue, a significant part in that. And at some point in time, you've probably all seen the Queen biopic. Tim made a decision to go in a different direction.
Well, the thing is, of course, who knew it was going to turn out this way? The long and short of it is that at some point in 1969, in a reflective moment, I looked around at what I was doing with Smile, and I thought, actually, I don't think this is really what and also the other thing is, of course, that you absorb influences from people that you meet, and you network. Anyone's life is like an accidental network, because you don't know who you're going to meet, who you're going to run into, and everybody has an influence on you. And I'd been influenced by people I'd met that were taking me away from that rock sensibility. And so I thought, I think I'll try something else, and they paraphrased it heavily in the movie, but it's broadly right. I left. I joined Colin Peterson in a peculiarly named band, Humpy Bong, which that's fine. It's a place. It's a place in Australia. I think it's a legitimate name, and I went off in a different direction altogether, and I had no real clue that I was going to be, anything I was doing musically was going to be eclipsed in such a mega fashion as it has been, but it was, and that's the story of it, But it didn't change my perception of what I wanted to do. I continued to follow my own path, and I've done that ever since. And actually, if it wasn't for the movie, I probably would have had even less of a profile than I have now, because at least that has actually thrown me into the spotlight again, albeit on a very humble level.
We're going to hear tonight that actually your own musical journey was one of significance. Most of us may have found you through, a connection maybe with Queen, then back to Smile. We're going to talk a little bit about those early days and what it was like to be...
Absolutely.
A youngster growing up in the 60s. But then, what happened after that? And
I suppose, what it has actually meant to me. A kid in the 60s growing up in post-war Britain, and I'm sure there's a lot of people in the audience that will find echoes in this. Britain at the end of the Second World War was probably, I would imagine, judging by my parents, full of frightened people who had just been through 6 years of hell and didn't really know whether it was going to kick off again. The Cold War was just beginning, the Korean War was about to kick off. To return to the days of the Blitz, and there must have been so much public angst around about that kids were just sort of marginalised, I think, and got on with their own thing. Suddenly, 1960 dawned, And I think people suddenly start to realise, hey, we're out from under the shadow. Maybe we can start thinking about doing stuff again. And I firmly believe that the cultural, what you call it, if you'd like to call it a cultural revolution in the 60s, started as a result of being liberated from the paranoia of the end of the Second World War. And I was a recipient of that. I went to grammar school. My dad was so pleased I went to grammar school. My God, the first one in the family who hasn't dragged the family name down into the mud. Of course, as soon as he knew that I was aiming to play in a rock band, he changed his mind radically. That was the essence of the origins of the 60s cultural revolution, and I was caught up in it completely. I was so focally a part of that whole thing that I'm the archetype. I'm the absolute archetype of a young kid growing up in the 60s who was seduced and absorbed by the cultural revolution and carried on from there.
Youth culture and music.
Absolutely.
So what was how did you start off, Tim, making music?
Well,
you're a harmonica player,
Well, do you know, I'll tell you what, the first time I ever did anything at all was I sang in a skiffle group when I was 11 at my primary school. God, I was 11 years old, and I tell you what I sang. I sang Michael Holliday's "Someday I'm Gonna Write the Story of My Life." I don't know if anyone remembers that song.
Yeah.
I mean, it was...
check it out, it'll be on Spotify.
It'll be on Spotify.
Maybe.
Michael Holiday, The Story of My Life. Cheesy or what? But that was my introduction to the concept that I could be a performer. And I remember going to my mum and saying, "Mum, I want to be a singer." Over and above my dad's guffaws of laughter, my mum at least took me seriously enough to say, "Well, if that's what you want to do, son, put all your energies into it." But, she was relatively encouraging in the first place. And I continued after that first sort of dalliance with skiffle by joining a small rhythm and blues band.
At what age was that, Tim?
God, geez, 14, I think.
Yeah, wow.
I mean, when I was 13, I was run over rather badly, which interfered with my education a bit. But I think I was a lost cause anyway. From academic education, I think I was already a lost cause. And so I think the first band I was in, I believe, was called the Railroaders. I think I played through an old radio. I had a Vox guitar, funny old cheap Vox guitar, and I played through a radio. It sounded dreadful. But that was the beginning,
Yeah. What about the harmonica? Because that crept in there. I've read you were described as a harmonica player and a vocalist.
The harmonica was a result of the fact that apart from what I was actually doing, I was absorbing music, the kind of music that was on offer. And of course, what was on offer in those days was the blues was coming over from the States. I mean, Elvis initially, and pop icons like Bobby V, Del Shannon, Sonny Terry and Brownie McGhee were the first people that I listened to where I became aware that a harmonica was a serious instrument. And it was Sonny Terry that got me started playing. I probably learned enough to be able to play decent R&B harp.
So wind the clock forward probably a few months from this point. There was 1984. When was?
I mean, actually, a lot of my memories I've read second hand. You've got a
an aid memoir.
But one of the things that I'm slightly privileged in is that there have been lots of speculative histories that I was supposed to be a part of, and I've read them, and some of them I think I don't remember that, but some of them ring true. And one of them was that apparently one night I turned up to a gig in a church hall in Twickenham, and I had a harp. And I was standing at the back of the hall and the band was playing and I was like, I was playing harp at the back and they heard me.
Yeah.
And apparently they were quite impressed, the fools. And so they asked me if I'd like to sit in on a, and that was Brian and Dave Dillaway and John Garnham and I think John Sanger was it, the pianist. That was the embryonic members, so the members of what was to become 1984. I should also mention that the very fact that I was there was because Brian and I and Dave Dillaway and John Garnham and John Sanger were all at Hampton School. I mean, that there was the connection. That was the social connection.
Was it your school, the school you
that
went
was
to?
the school I was at.
But you were a bit younger? Were you...
I think I was a year younger than those guys, and 5 years stupider, I think, in the reality of things. But of course, because we were at school together, it cemented the network. It cemented that connection, and so we. In fact, I have a feeling that the band that was there were. You see, Dave Dillaway had originally called the band the Mind Boggles.
It's quite appropriate for now.
Yes, but I think possibly then it was a bit too much ahead of its time. So the outfit that evolved out of that meeting, that first meeting and those eventual rehearsals was 1984. And we were a relatively successful working covers band of schoolboys who played regular gigs at the Vesta Rowing Club in Putney and other venues round and about, and supplanted our pocket money with ill-gotten gains eked out of
rock and roll.
Rock and roll.
Interestingly, I picked up this CD on eBay, and it probably has some of that material. Some of it I've never heard, but I will borrow that from you. Yeah.
And
it's curious though that there are things out there that Tim's created, was
Yeah.
part of, that this sort of legacy keeps.
well, I mean, talk about reflected glory. Christ, I mean, the glory doesn't come much more reflected than what's reflecting on me out of all this, but there is stuff there to back it up.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Absolutely.
I mean, one of the things, the story of Silver Salmon is a classic case in point. A song I'd written in the early Smile years, which I hadn't finished, and which had gone onto the back burner forever, and then 10 years down the line, I get an email from someone saying, "Oh, by the way, have you heard Queen's demo of Silver Salmon?" Huh? Basically, who knew? And and further to that, I seem to have been drawn along with their success story by virtue of the fact that they've ever so kindly given me a name check every step of the way.
But Smile did leave a pretty deep footprint. I mean, as I said, sometimes whilst people may have found it or discovered it through one avenue, I mean, I remember the same thing happened to me. I should probably just say I held up a CD. I wasn't very clear about it. Around 1982, I was in Oxford Street in London in HMV, and just out of curiosity, being aware of Smile, looked in the S's, which is what we used to do in those days, folks, before streaming. And I found this thing here, which was, it says it's Brian May, Roger Taylor and Tim Staffel. And I knew that at that point, Smile had released a single called Earth, which was written by Tim Staffel, and the B-side was Step On Me. But I was in awe, this music was, an incredible thing to... I was in awe of it, so it kind of doesn't really matter how I found it. This deep footprint of fantastic music, which you that song you wrote was a song. It was interesting. How did the song come about, Tim? The Earth.
Well, I mean, I've always been, and I've probably made it a matter of some public knowledge. I'm a sci-fi nut. I have been. I mean, I haven't. Well, I even went so far as to write a novel.
When was that, Tim? Sorry.
Well,
did anyone know that?
Yeah, I've written a science fiction novel. It's called Hidden Planet. It's available on Kindle, but it was a cathartic exercise. It's quite long. It's about 100,000 words, and when my kids were young, we used to spend every summer in Spain, and on the south coast of Spain, at a family house, and frankly, me and the son don't get on terribly well. Well, I don't like that sort of sun, not 100 degrees glaring. So for about 8 years, I sat indoors in the daytimes on those holidays, typing away on my first laptop, and the novel came out of that. And I didn't finish it, but I finished it later on. And as I say, I'm a science fiction nut. I dig it, I'm a Star Trek fan. I'm a Star Wars fan. I'm a Starship Troopers fan. I love it all,
It might actually be a good time to just play a little bit of Smile's version of Earth.
I might be at a table and suddenly I'll catch a fleeting vision of her crystal seas. Or I might be standing in a crowd, dark and far away, underneath the sun I've never seen. 'Cause I have seen many worlds for what it's worth, but I'll never see again the planet Earth.
Wow.
What a voice!
Well, doesn't that sound good?
Yeah.
I mean, it really does, actually. Do you know that? I mean, I'm
You
sure.
sound surprised, Tim.
Well, I am because, but I mean, I'm sure everybody is familiar with this. Songs sound different depending on who you're listening to them with. They do. I mean, I've heard stuff that I thought, oh, and then I've been with someone who's a fan, listened to the same song, and thought, God, that really is good. I mean, actually, because I'm assuming that everyone's here because they didn't wander into the wrong room. And I'm assuming that I'm listening to this with folks who kind of take it seriously, because it sounded great to me.
I think, just to be clear, Smile was a band that Tim was in with Brian May and Roger Taylor from Queen. But I think from that soundbite, you can actually hear Brian's guitar.
Yeah.
And actually, there's quite a very Brian May guitar solo in it, isn't it?
No, absolutely.
Where it's sort of passed on to him. And then you can hear the harmonies, which, again, there's that Queen.
But it is true to say, isn't it, though, that vocally, the difference is between what
sound.
Freddie brought later on and what I was able to is radically different. And one of the reasons I went was because I'm not a performer, and that's what Freddie brought to the band. That's what Freddie brought to Brian's fantastic guitar playing, Roger's fantastic drumming, and which I couldn't have brought to it because that's not me.
I mean, it's different. The voices are different, but things continued, I think, from that point with the guitar solo, with the vocal harmonies. You can see it being the embryo, maybe.
Yeah, it is just an embryo. I mean, you could, because I'm a more laid-back kind of guy. Like I say, I'm not a performer. I was never able to be a front man in that sense. I've followed the path of, shall we say, a singer-songwriter, because I still have a good deal of confidence in my vocal.
I mean, I'm sure people would agree, and if they don't, sod you. But Tim's voice is, was and still is quite remarkable, and we'll probably listen to another short version of a later incarnation of that. But after that, we saw it in the film. Brian saying something like "Humpy Bong, Tim," and your character saying "They're going places," or something like that.
I don't remember. I did an Instagram art the other day where someone said, "Tell us about Humpty Bong," and I said, "Well, Humpty Bong had a great fall, and all the king's horses."
Yeah.
The thing is, to go back to fundamentals, and now actually I'm quoting the lyrics of a song by Jonathan Kelly here. In 1840...
Who's Jonathan Kelly? Sorry.
Yes. Can I get onto that?
We can.
We can get onto that. In 1840, Captain John Oxley sailed into Moreton Bay. Now, Captain John Oxley was one of the discoverers of Australia. And the first settlement that appeared in Moreton Bay was a town called Humpy Bong by the Aborigines. That song, the lyrics of that song was written by Jonathan Kelly, who was a folk singer who was managed by Colin Peterson, who I met after I'd left Smile, and I have to say who was a very, very significant musical influence on my life. Great songwriter, wonderfully strong intellectual, political, Irish, with Irish sensibilities. And when I say Irish sensibilities, I mean, an awareness of the struggles, an awareness of his culture. An absolutely lovely guy who sadly died last year. But he was such an important influence on me. His songs are wonderful. They really are wonderful.
He was involved in the Bee Gees, right?
Well, you see, Colin Peterson...
Oh, sorry.
Colin Peterson was the drummer of the Bee Gees, and Colin Peterson formed the band Humpy Bong. And one of the members was Jonathan Kelly. Okay. The other member was me. The song "Don't You Be Too Long" is the one single that we did with me singing. I don't know. We got a clip of that.
We do, yes. Yeah, shall we? But it was a bit of a hit, wasn't it? And did it go on Top of the Pops?
Well, we went on Top of the Pops. I mean, who remembers?
What is Top of the Pops, Tim?
Yeah, who remembers Top of the Pops? I mean, really the major pop music weekly TV show in this country. And we did it twice, and I did it myself again as session guitar player with one of Jonathan Kelly's own tunes.
But you got on there before Brian, Roger, Freddie and John.
Well before there. Yes, I'm groundbreaking. Me.
Cue the song.
Yeah.
The voice is fantastic.
Yeah,
Humpy Bong.
Humpy Bong, yeah.
Humpy Bong.
Humpy Bong. Interestingly, if I could blow my own trumpet for a minute, I'm singing all the harmonies on that. That was one of the things that coming out of Smile, going into Humpy Bong, was that there wasn't a strong harmony vocal contingent there. So I did it myself.
Yeah.
So I think it sounds pretty good as well.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, one of the, as is often the case, things were often of their era. So I mean, it was of a pop sense. It had represented the pop sensibilities of the time.
Kelly himself had recorded that tune, as you might expect. It was his tune, and his
Catchy.
version is much slower, and it's much more like the band, or like and actually I when we went into the studio and we recorded it like that, which was actually Colin Peterson's production, I wasn't as comfortable as I had been listening to John Kelly's own version of it. But having said that, you know, what the hey, you know.
You know, I mean, the vocals, you can't argue with that.
It's
you
a
know, and
catchy
the vocals
song,
are,
and actually the vocals are pretty good, I agree.
yeah,
I agree.
You know, you hear there your range, you know, that actually your voice is very high and still very weighty. And Freddie's was a bit like that as well, wasn't it? But
Do you know, I mean, I think the thing about Freddie was, Freddie wasn't afraid to sing in a mellow style. And why should he be afraid anyway? That was just what he did. I think up until this album, I'd been singing in a more strident and sort of rock-infused fashion, which is a bit one-dimensional, really. But and that's why I was really grateful to the guys in Barcelona who more or less said to me, "No, just sing gently, sing more in more mellow." Which I wasn't sure about, but on reflection, I think was absolutely right.
and in the early days, there was a lot of power involved, wasn't there? Really, but
We were all trying to emulate Robert Plant at the time.
Even Freddie, I guess. You know,
I think so.
Things
I
like
think
Son and
so.
Daughter and stuff like that.
I think so. I mean, Plant was very significant influence.
Yeah.
I mean, which is weird when you consider what he does now with Alison Krauss, and you know he's a new bluegrass devotee now in many ways, and he's singing just beautifully.
Yeah. One thing we didn't mention that you were, you know, we didn't really go into the departure from Smile, and we've kind of moved. We're into Morgan territory now, I think, aren't we? But,
We are. I mean,
but you were good pals with Fred. You know,
yeah. I mean, I'm sure everybody knows that the movie just depicted it because it was expedient to do it like that. But everybody knows that Freddie and I were both students at Ealing College of Art. We'd known each other for years. We suffered with the same tutors, the same tedious projects. We both graduated with the same meaningless degree.
qualification.
And we wanted to be musicians. And
We did some pretty good stuff, though. You know, there's the artwork. You know, things like that. They're still there. People are buying them, right, folks?
Well, that's true. But then look at Freddie's crest.
Oh yeah, that was pretty.
That's
phenomenal.
pretty amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's what you do with it, isn't it? Really, you know. So.
Well, I guess so. I mean, the smile. You know, the thing about the smile was, of course, that I've always been a cynic. I mean, who isn't? Who in their right mind isn't cynical? And the reason I did that smile in the first place was it's supposed to represent an insincere promoter.
All right.
Ping! You know, come with me, guys. I'll make you pop stars. Ping! That's what that was all about. But it
Did you have anyone in mind? Actually, don't. It could be defamatory. Let's not go into that. That'll be an edit. But
it was an archetype. It was an archetype.
no one specifically.
No one specific. And everyone I knew.
So should we come back to Morgan then? You know, we're into Morgan territory. Yeah.
Well, Morgan, of course. The thing about Morgan, and I think this happened quite a lot in bands in those days. That Morgan was the keyboard player with a band called Love Affair, and Love Affair were an absolute mainstream. They were the One Direction of their day in many ways. They were a teeny band, but they had a couple of really great hits, very, very good songs. Everlasting Love and Rainbow Valley was the second single. They were both really, really good pop singles, and I still listen to them to this day. But as happened with so many people in those days, was they kind of felt that they were being marginalised into the pop idiom. So they wanted to be more significant. They wanted to be more serious. So Morgan, being a classically trained keyboard player, and I have to say a very, very good one, wanted to start making music that was prompted by...
Credible?
It was credible
Yeah.
and prompted by more serious
Musicianship?
musicians. He was always insisting that he was influenced by Mahler. Well, I'm afraid I don't know enough Mahler to be able to pontificate on that. But he wrote this bunch of stuff which I had to write the lyrics for. I mean, I did the audition and he was sufficiently engaged with what I did to give me the job. But from that moment on, one of the most important things in my life was writing lyrics for Morgan, because they were not pop songs, they were complex, probably in fact over-arranged pieces. And you would have called me a librettist in an earlier century. I was writing this stuff to these complex time sequences, and what I was trying to do, but it was the best learning experience for lyric writing that I think anybody could ever hope for, because I was having to look for colloquial expressions that fitted weird time sequences and that sounded plausible. And if you listen to the Morgan albums, I reckon they're fairly successful.
I mean, musically, they're triumphant, aren't they?
I mean,
I don't know about the commercial success at the time. You know, we've never spoken about that.
There's the Blondell politician with his celebrated smile of piano, keyboard, ivory, with each key neatly filed. I mean, you wouldn't. I sweated blood writing those lyrics.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
Well, we should probably have picked another sample. I thought it was interesting to hear another incarnation of Earth, and basically because I like it, and you know.
It's fine. I think it's significant as well.
Yeah. It's good to hear. You know, I mean, it's quite different, isn't it? But should we have the next audio? Wow. I think Morgan deserves some credit for the great key. The keys are stunning,
Morgan
aren't they?
is great, but it was his band, so you can tell because he mixed my voice right down in the mix there.
Still cuts through really,
Well,
really
I guess
nicely.
it does.
Yeah.
I guess it does. I mean, that's a good version too.
Yeah.
And one of the interesting things there is that Maurice Bacon, who was the drummer, who was also the drummer in The Love Affair, and who is still to this day a very, very good friend of mine. I love his drumming. I love it. It's just so tight and so punchy, you know. And it was a pleasure to play with Maurice because of that solid foundation. He doesn't play drums anymore, but I think he deserves that credit.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think everyone deserves credit for Morgan, but you know, definitely worth checking out and getting hold of those records. And
we did speak, didn't we, earlier today about just to about poor Bob, the bass player, who didn't survive the 70s, unfortunately, due to a road traffic accident. The bass player, who was playing played fretless bass, was a great bass player, lovely guy. So I just thought I'd mention it because
It's nice to remember.
yeah,
you know,
we talked about him today. It came up in conversation today, and I just, wherever you are, Bob, we loved you.
So Morgan, the band were pretty tasty.
Yeah, it was prog rock. I mean, the funny thing was, wasn't it, that I'd left Smile and I'd moved into Humpy Bong, which was a band that was actually based quite a bit on rhythm and quite a bit on the groove and quite a bit on improvisation and extemporization within the structure of a song, which is really why I'd moved on anyway. That was the kind of music I was trying to search out. And then suddenly, and I think it was just the very fact that they offered me money,
Always good.
I changed direction and got into Morgan, which is prog rock, which is almost the farthest end of the spectrum that you could imagine. But as I said, the experience of writing lyrics for that sort of complex music was invaluable, and I would always say that's what helped. I think I write decent lyrics, and I think that's one of the reasons why was that it was an apprenticeship that was without peer, frankly.
So Nova Solace is the album that Earth was.
Yes, Nova Solace is the album that Earth was part of. Nova Solace is a rock opera. And Earth is one of the tracks from it.
What year was that, Tim?
73.
Yeah.
So recorded in Italy. Everything recorded in Italy because RCA Rome gave us a fat advance, and nobody else would.
Yeah.
So we went to Italy and had a wonderful time and ate lots of Italian food.
So at Morgan, we've done a couple of the musical epochs, which I guess was the precursor to Queen, and Smile and 1984, and we moved, I suppose, to a degree. It's only epoch Humpy Bong, isn't it? And then Morgan is another.
And then I briefly went back with Jonathan Kelly because Kelly had formed a band while I was in Morgan and while I was abroad, and because I spent a couple of years with Morgan, and we were mostly in Italy for that time. And when I came back, and I'd become very close friends with John Kelly. When I came back, Jonathan Kelly had formed a band which was called Jonathan Kelly's Outside, and at that time, the bass player was Trevor Williams from the Nashville Teens. The guitarist was Chaz Jankel, who is now the MD of Ian Dury and what remains of the Blockheads. The drummer was Dave Sheen, who had been with Paz. Darryl Lee Q was conga player. Kuma Harada, most of these people are no longer with us, was the bass player, Japanese bass player. And that was one kick-ass band. I am not kidding. I mean, we could have blown Kokomo off the stage any night of the week. We were so good. And
was Tailfeather
kind of came out of that, but it was different players. But it was a similar kind of ethic, which was basically.
Was it musically the same genre?
Musically the same genre. It was funk, basically. I mean, it was as close as us white guys could get to funk.
Should we ever listen to that?
Let's have a listen to Stray.
My mama never changed the sheets on the bed, and my daddy, he was out of a job. I used to walk the street till the sun went down, drink all my
that's when I first met Richard Lightman, Canadian guitar player, producer. We had this band Tail Feather, which I suppose was the name being prompted by the song Shake a Tail Feather, if you know that tune, which was a kind of iconic funk song at the time. We did half a dozen tracks. Do you know I recorded a version of By the Time I Get to Phoenix, Jim Webb's By the Time I Get to Phoenix on that Tail Feather album, which is available on... am I allowed to advertise?
Yeah, go for it. It's your show, Tim.
It's
an
my
evening
show.
with Tim Staffel.
I've got some stuff on Bandcamp, and I did a recording of By the Time I Get to Phoenix. It's kind of all right, but I've always been such a massive Jim Webb fan, that I just... Well, you can see where my writing is coming from, really. Webb is what a writer. I mean, Galveston.
Can I just jump in with some? I can hear when you're making these references, the audience. I can hear them going, "Oh yeah," and they know. What a brilliantly well-informed audience we have. I think we should take a moment to applaud them, Tim. With
Well, look, you all know Jim Webb, don't you?
Yeah.
We all know Jim Webb. Wrote Richard the Lineman. Wrote Galveston. Wrote.
They do now.
Yeah.
So, Tim. Moving on, so we've done a few epochs. I think the next one was where you sort of stepped out of music for a little bit.
Yep.
Maybe. Have I missed something? Imagine the royalties if you'd written that.
That was Junior Campbell, That tune's written and played by Junior Campbell, who was a member of the Marmalade at the time. And their little company just did music for commercials and series. But
should have done the music and not the models. But they were pretty cool, though, weren't they?
Well, but we all signed the King's Shilling. We all took the King's Shilling before we did the series. In other words, do you know what the King's Shilling is? Well, I'll tell you what the King's Shilling is. Press gangs in the 19th century, 18th century, used to go into places, cudgel people, to press gang them into joining the Navy, and they'd give them tuck a shilling into their top pocket, and if these people said, I don't want to be in the Navy, they said, well, you took the King's Shilling, and that...
Too late.
Too late, you're in the Navy. So anyway, that was a euphemism for having agreed not to have any royalties from Tommy the Tank Engine. So in other words, I earned nothing from it. Well, I earned the respect of my peers, I suppose. But actually, to be honest with you, Tommy the Tank Engine was just about the most fun job I ever had in my life. I mean, are you kidding me? 2 years playing with trains, big trains. I mean, not little tiny electric trains with a 12-volt adapter. Massive trains, 40-foot sets. It was a beautiful job.
Didn't you set some of them on fire with a smoke machine or something like that?
All sorts of things. Well, I'll tell you what, let me tell you this. The day before we started shooting, and we'd been 18 months building all this stuff, the day before we finished shooting was the only time in my life that I have done 2 ghosters. And what I mean by that is worked all day, worked all night, worked all day, worked all night. So did 2 full days and 2 full nights without going to sleep, just to get ready for the first day of shooting, because the camera crew was... The first set was a big station, Tidmouth, was it Tidmouth? Tidmouth Station. And it was supposedly snowy. So it was all covered, we used to use salt, dendritic salt for snow. So the whole set was covered in snow. So the morning of the shooting camera crew came in, set up, got ready. We got the trains on the tracks. The electric motors are fed through the tracks, as they are in most electric trains. Press the button, nothing. Turns out that the salt had corroded the brass rails overnight, and they were not making an electric connection. So I had to get in my car, drive to Epsom or somewhere from Battersea and pick up shed loads of stainless steel track for oodles of pounds sterling, and bring them all back and replace everything and cover it in salt again, because the salt didn't affect the stainless steel rails. And that's the beginning of Tommy the Tank Engine. I stuck it for, I don't know, 6 months while they were filming, and then I left because, well, actually the reason I left was because I got offered a better job at better money. And actually we did everything. That first series, we'd done everything. We'd set the scene, we'd set the characterisation, we'd set the style of everything, we'd built most of the stuff that was required for the first series, and everything that went on afterwards was just repeating that.
Who would have thought all that went into what we were watching on TV,
Well,
what the kids were watching? But yeah, it's fantastic.
It's been very, very popular, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. So, moving the next epoch, Tim, back into music.
Wow.
Unfinished business.
Well,
Amigo.
I spent a lot of years doing film and TV and animation and goodness knows what, but I never stopped writing. I still was writing and playing in some scratch bands, and so I didn't, I never left music. It just went on the back burner. It sort of went on the back burner. I had a business. I had my own model making and film and animation business from about 1990 onwards.
That degree did come in handy, then, I guess.
Of course, I went back to what I knew. What I knew could earn me some money. But I don't know if it was the same for everybody else. And then, of course, I had kids. That's the other thing. I had kids, and my eldest son started to get very good at drums, and he became really good, a really good drummer. And then 2001 happened, and the Twin Towers went down. And I don't know about everybody else, but that made a significant change in my life. I don't know, everything changed somehow. I packed up my business, not because of that, but because, and also the millennium, because of the millennium and the fact that there was a lot of millennium work about, and then there wasn't, and then there was 2001, and it was just all it was a kind of traumatic and visceral kind of experience, those years around the millennium. I packed it in. I sold my business. I went back to being a freelancer. Didn't make much money. And I went teaching. Got a job teaching. And at the same time, I thought, I want to put these songs down that I've been writing. And now that my son is a drummer, and the thing is, he was.
You don't need to pay a drummer.
I don't have to pay a drummer.
Drummer's free.
But the thing, it wasn't that so much as the fact that because I've always dug the groove, he did as well.
Yeah.
So he was totally in tune with what I wanted to do. And so I met Richard Lightman again from Tailfeather from the 70s, and so we put Amigo together.
Yeah.
And recorded it, and.
I've got it. Have you got copies? Will you have some for
Yeah,
sale?
I've got
here?
some copies of Amigo.
You've got to get. If you haven't got it, you've got to have Amigo.
Yeah, Amigo's great. Well, because
fantastic.
you know that Brian is on Amigo as well. If that's an added
Yeah.
bonus, Brian. I had Brian
May.
Brian May. That is, he did two tracks on it with me. Snowy White did a couple of tracks. Morgan did a couple of tracks.
It's a belting album. It's one of the. It's difficult to define in terms of genres. I always felt I think you can see a real authenticity coming out in that. The difficulty in describing it is probably a consequence.
I take it that, which I'm very flattered about. I take it that what you're meaning is a genre of one.
One genre.
Genre of one person, and that's why. Whenever I'm trying to do a playlist and it says, what genre is your work in? I think, I don't know.
It just traverses genres, doesn't it? It moves.
I'm hardwired to do what I do, and I just do it.
Yeah.
Basically. That's it.
Have we got something from Amigo? I think we
Yeah,
we had
we got Earth, haven't
a
we?
bit of
We've got
Earth,
another
yeah, but maybe it's Earth 3, not
It's
3
Earth
minutes
3, yeah,
30. So
it's
a quick blast of this,
But
maybe.
it's different, you know.
I might be at a table and suddenly I'll catch a fleeting vision of those crystal seas. Or I might be standing in a crowded dockyard far away underneath a sun I've never seen. 'Cause I've seen many worlds, but what's in a world? Oh, if I never
We should just say that. We should just say that, and this is when I first actually fully realised that vocal is Brian when it starts. So it's Brian May, and it was that album when I suddenly realised what a great singer he is. He's a wonderful singer.
His voice is fabulous.
Yeah.
And then it worked well. Your voice had changed a bit as well.
Oh, yeah,
You
I've been gargling with gravel at that point. Yeah.
Check out Amigo, fantastic album. So, where should we go now, Tim?
Well,
We've
I
been
suppose
talking
it's,
for quite a while.
in reality, the next thing that happened, of course, fast forward to 2018, is I get a phone call from Brian saying, look, we're having a bit of trouble in recreating Smile for the movie we're doing. And what we're having trouble is we're recreating the style of Smile, because most of the material that we've got, especially Queen's version of it, of that song, Doing All Right, it identifies it too much with the Queen version. So do you fancy coming down and having a bash at singing it? Which I did. I mean, I was listening to it the other day, and to be honest with you, I think they could have gone even further to making it sound a bit more 70s authentic, because it's really still quite refined. I mean, I love it. It's great. It's a great version of it. You know, what I thought I was being asked to do was come down as a bit of rough, you know, and do because I played bass on it as well.
Yeah.
But I was immensely flattered to go down to Abbey Road and sing on the soundtrack of Bohemian Rhapsody, and you know, and it makes me think again, over all these years, they've included me in it all the way, and I still think, I mean, I'm not sure that I deserve it, but they've been so inclusive all the way through that I feel humbled, you know, and privileged, you know, to have been involved, and sometimes I feel slightly disingenuous, because I'm acknowledging the debt I owe them and the gratitude that I have to them, but I'm also at the same time trying to slide out from under it to present my own music as an individual offering, and say, look, actually this isn't really anything to do with that, but I think it's good anyway. Yeah. Please like me. I think that's what it comes down to.
Well, I mean, the talent in songwriting, you know, and the vocals, they've, you know, from the early days, they continue now.
We hope.
But I think we've got a playback of Doing All Right from the film, Tim, which you've just mentioned. Shall we have a quick,
let's have a quick blast
go
of
that? And soon we'll be into some live music.
yesterday, my life was in ruin. Now today, I know what I'm doing. Got a feeling I should be doing alright. Doing
Can I just roll something out there? Do you know who did the lead vocal from the first verse? I didn't know that. How did you all know that?
And it was also Roger on the original version as well. So
Did you know that?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
what a knowledgeable bunch!
But I mean that also begs the acknowledgement that Roger, great singer, Brian, great singer.
Tim, great singer.
What was I doing there?
Yeah. Well, I think you could hear it was interesting in there. Tim's voice is visceral.
We had a good blend of voices, and let's face it.
Yeah.
If you go across the board and everything that's ever been done by all sorts of groups, one of the things that is really significant is the blend of the voices. I mean, look at the Eagles.
Yeah.
The blend of the Eagles' voices is fantastic.
Yeah.
The blend of the Beatles' voices was absolutely fantastic. The blend of the Beach Boys' voices is absolutely fantastic. And that's completely independent of the musicality of it all.
Yeah.
I mean, the list is endless, isn't it?
Yeah, you do a pretty good job with just your own voice as well, Tim. I think we've heard that today.
Well, one hopes so, but it can't ever substitute for four voices that are different but compatible.
Yeah.
That is a much better way of singing harmonies than overdubbing like I've done for most of my career.
Who wasn't thinking in their heads singing Doing All Right when, what a song that is, a great song.
Well.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And I guess that kind of brings us back to the modern day, full circle.
I guess it does. Unless
there's anything else you would like to.
No. I mean, it's very easy to sound obsequious about this. I've spent most of my life outside of this, away from this, working in a different medium altogether. But as I've always regarded myself as being first and foremost a songwriter, and I've always written songs, and I've done the odd recording of them here and there, and I never really considered it to be anything other than something that I just happened to do because I wanted to do it. Suddenly, along comes Bohemian Rhapsody, and I get an increased level of credibility foisted on me because I've suddenly got people, taking me seriously, and so here I am, once again thinking, well, why don't I just put my stuff out there? I don't know if it's got value. Well, you say it has.
Yeah.
And
it has.
Come
on, Tim. We're our own worst critiques, but Tim, you're a fantastic vocalist, fantastic songwriter. You always have been, from the very early days. And I think I'm going to step aside and we'll get all of this set up so Tim can play and sing some songs.
I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah.
Said there'd be days like this, but you could put things right with a smile and a kiss. He never made it to the present day, but if he saw us now, what would he say? Expectations overblown, limitations not well known, aspirations carved in stone. Well, it just turned out that way. The preacher told me I should trust in fate, lead me through until that terminal gate. I was a young man when I read that sign, dedicated to a waste of time. safe harbor is just revealed. Out of the sun on that fateful day, we watched the sinner as he slipped away. There must be some way we can make this right. See eye to eye and not turn down the light. This little world keeps spinning on and on. Without each other now we'll soon be gone. But celebration is out of place, and even losing in its warm embrace. So what befalls the human race if we don't care at all? Here comes that California girl, tall and lovely, hair in a gypsy curl. Gives me a sideways smile. She's enigmatic with a sensual style. I'm out of place and the time has slipped away. It's too late, I can't have it any other way. I was standing out in the Nashville rain. I wanted one more chance to strut my stuff again. Everybody was just passing by, concentrating on a younger guy. I'm out of place and I've lost the will to play. It's too late, I can't have it any other way. Time is a wayward child, it buries you or sets afire. Weaving dreams that fade from sight, day becomes an endless night. We're at the crossroads and the devil wants his pay. Your daddy's footsteps long since faded away. No aspiration for a rising sun, another chance for you to get things done. We could keep on working till the break of day. It's too late, I can't have it any other way. It's too late, I can't have This is called Tomorrow is Another Day. She don't love me like she used to. This kind of sad, but that's okay. Just the way that things have gone. Nobody to blame, no right or wrong. All I can do is just carry on, 'cause tomorrow is another day. I guess I did not understand her. Too much stuff got in the way. We stayed put till the kids had grown. Still together, but living alone. I'm gonna turn over every stone, 'cause tomorrow is another day. I'm gonna change the situation, bring all them big guns into play. Don't expect I can turn back time. If it got broke, then I'm gonna be on the line. If it breaks, it'll turn out fine, 'cause tomorrow is another day. The winds of change, they just keep blowing. Big wheel keeps rolling on. You'll never know how things are going until they're just plain gone. Gonna change the situation. Look on the bright side, come what may. You never know what's around the bend. If it got broke, then it can mend. With any luck, it'll be home again, 'cause tomorrow is another day. Tomorrow is another day. Tomorrow is another day. So this tune is a tune of mine, and it's the ultimate blues tune as far as I'm concerned, because it's called Nothing in the World But Pain. Well, I lay my head in an old oak tree, big old moon shining down on me. Oh Lord, nothing in the world but pain. Mama kicked me out and she locked that door. She said, you ain't living here no more. Oh Lord, nothing in the world but pain. 30 miles out down the old dirt track, big limousine knocked me on my back. Whoa, Lord, nothing in the world but pain. Well, the doctor said, we can fix you up. Just sign here, it's $1,000. Oh, Lord, nothing in the world but pain. Nothing in the world but pain and strife. Devil at my heels all through my life. How can I make it to the next paycheck when every day's just a train wreck? Well, I called my baby, said, please be kind. I'm so afraid I get left behind. Oh Lord, nothing in the world but pain. She said, brother, you sure are dumb if you think I don't know where you're coming from. Oh Lord, nothing in the world but pain. Nothing in the world but pain and strife. Devil at my heels all through my life. How can I make it to the next paycheck when every day's just a train wreck? Well, I called my baby, said, please be kind. So afraid I get left behind. Oh Lord, nothing in the world but pain. Oh Lord, nothing in the world but pain. Oh Lord, nothing in the world but pain. This is Country of the Blind. Don't you worry, everything's gonna be alright. Just remember, Rome wasn't built overnight. You got to find some reason to satisfy your mind. There is an old saying about the country of the blind. When it's all been said and done, you're gonna wake up one morning and walk out in the sun. You got to find your freedom to be a friend of mine, or you can stumble in the country of the blind. Lions on the hill, vultures on the plain. You know they're watching you still, they just want your heart again. And someday, when it's all been said and done, you're gonna wake up one morning, walk out in the sun. You got to find your freedom to be a friend of mine. There is an old saying about the country of the blind. Now don't you stop if it's a cloudy day. You gotta keep on keeping on, never ever let it get away. You got to find your freedom and be a friend of mine. blind. You gotta keep on keeping on. Thank you for coming tonight. Whoa, whoa, whoa. It is the country of the blind. This is called Low Rent Blues, and I'm very fond of it myself, so I hope you like it. I got them low rent blues. They're not so hard to find. We started out along this road together. Now I'm trailing far behind. I can't stand the isolation. It's driving me insane. And there's no comfort in the wine. All you can talk about is separation, baby. Have you gone and lost your mind? Times are hard and the going's tough. You say you just had enough. The past is gone and the future's rough. What can I say? Now there's only so much time. You know it starts today. If you're so sure that there are blue skies round your corner, guess I better let you have your way. I can't idolize the daylight before the stars come out. You're packing up your bags to fly. There's nothing I can say. Guess that this is Judgment Day. So babe, I'll just say goodbye. Times are hard and the going's tough. You say you just had enough. The past is gone and the future is rough. What can I say? What can I say? What can I say? Thank you. Yesterday, my life was in ruin. Now today, I know what I'm doing. Got a feeling I should be doing alright. Doing alright. Where will I be this time tomorrow? Jumped in bit unorthodox. Thank you so much.
I might be chasing waves of light out towards the rim, where stars are sparse and the cold of space seeps in. Or I might be in a barroom drinking methylated gin and thinking of the places I have been. Yes, I